It's a pleasure being here today. And on this important occasion, as dozens of socialist intellectuals from around the world are gathering virtually to reaffirm here their collective commitment to revolutionary struggle and transformation, I'd like to devote the time allotted to me to focus my comments on an individual I regard as a towering journalistic figure of our era, and that figure is Julian Assange. And why have I chosen to do this? Because in my view, fundamentally, Mr. Assange is a victim of those two terrible scourges which threaten our very existence and which the Manifesto critiques so eloquently, namely capitalism and imperialism. Julian Assange is being persecuted by the most powerful capitalist imperialists in the world precisely because he fearlessly exposed their crimes. And through WikiLeaks, Mr. Assange's journalistic achievements have included the following. In November of 2007, WikiLeaks released a 238-page US Army manual from 2003 on standard operating procedures for the Camp Delta prison in Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, where countless human rights atrocities were perpetrated with the approval from the highest levels of the US government. In April 2010, WikiLeaks published video footage from a 2007 US Apache helicopter attack in Baghdad that killed at least 9 men, including a Reuters news photographer and his driver. And as we all know, that terrible war was waged primarily to enable Western capitalists to seize effective control over Iraq's vast fossil fuel reserves. In November 2010 to September 2011, WikiLeaks disclosed more than 250,000 unredacted US diplomatic cables dating from December 1966 to February 2010. In what is now known as Cablegate. And those documents included verification that the US had conducted secret drone strikes in Yemen. It disclosed details of US efforts to gather valuable information on United Nations representatives and a push by Saudi Arabia's brutal autocracy to have the US strike Iran. In July and October 2016, WikiLeaks released nearly 20,000 Democratic National Committee emails and another 2,000 emails from Clinton campaign manager John Podesta. The emails showed that the DNC had favored Clinton over her left-leaning rival, Senator Bernie Sanders. And among the damaging information in Podesta's emails was the news that then acting DNC chairwoman Donna Brazile had given the Clinton campaign debate questions in advance, thus disadvantaging her principal rival, Bernie Sanders. In effect, the DNC and Podesta emails highlighted the slavish devotion of the Democratic Party establishment to a corporatist elite. For these and many other reasons, Mr. Assange has arguably done more to expose the crimes and corruption of the capitalist class than any other journalist in my lifetime. And for this, he has been rewarded with psychological torture and indefinite imprisonment by the British and American governments. And meanwhile, the Western corporate media have done little, if anything, to defend his freedom and dignity. I go so far as to say that today, one of the numerous possible litmus tests for true journalism is whether those holding themselves out as journalists have at some point risen to the defense of Julian Assange. If they have not done so, then I say that they are no journalists at all, but are mere scribes of a capitalist and imperialist class. As a Canadian journalist, I find it disgraceful that in Canada's mainstream media, I have yet to see a single editorial or op-ed calling for the release of Julian Assange. But perhaps that should not surprise us because, as the Canadian media organizations demonstrated long ago, they don't exist to serve the public interest, but rather they exist to serve their corporate masters. The case of Julian Assange reminds us of the primordial importance of authentic journalism to the causes of justice and democracy. Without a free and independent press that is skeptical of and indeed hostile to power, we cannot hope to generate popular support for the kind of revolutionary socialist vision embodied within this manifesto. And in the months ahead, as we seek to perfect the manifesto, I hope that we can discuss, debate, formulate, and incorporate into it an effective set of policy prescriptions for creating, protecting, and nourishing a truly free and independent press throughout the world. And in closing, comrades, I reiterate my call for the liberation of Julian Assange and urge all persons of conscience to join me in demanding his freedom. Thank you.